Hey everyone, Miss Hood here. Today I'm going to go over how we can solve for force, mass, or acceleration using Newton's second law. In this part 2, I'm going to go over how we can do this using our triangle. The important thing to remember when you're reading through these problems is to know all of the units for each of our variables. Force is always measured in newtons. Mass is always measured in kilograms. And acceleration is always measured in meters per second squared. Now that we know that, let's go through an example. The first question says how much force is needed to accelerate a 7 kilogram mass at 2 meters per second squared. Force is what I'm solving for. 7 kilograms is my mass, and 2 meters per second is my acceleration. Once I know that, I can start putting things into my triangle. Force is always at the top. I have mass is 7 kilograms, and acceleration is 2 meters per second squared. The important thing to remember is when two numbers are next to each other down at the bottom, in order to solve for the other unknown variable, all I do is multiply. So to solve for force, I take 7 kilograms, multiply it by 2 meters per second, and I get force is equal to 14 newtons. Remember, newtons are always the unit for force. Pretty easy, right? Let's go through another one. Number 2 says, what is the mass of an object that requires 50 newtons of force to accelerate it at 5 meters per second? So in this case, I'm trying to solve for mass. The 50 newtons is always going to be my force, and the 5 meters per second is my acceleration. Once I know that, I can start putting things into my triangle. Force is always at the top. I don't know mass, so I'm just going to write m. And my acceleration is 5 meters per second squared. Now this one is a little bit different. When my numbers are on the top and the bottom, I always have to divide, just like a fraction. So if I want to solve for mass, I take my 50 newtons, divide that by 5 meters per second squared. And I get my mass is equal to 10. Remember, our units for mass are always in kilograms. You don't need to know how newtons divided by meters per second squared gets us to kilograms. Just remember that mass is always measured in kilograms. All right, ready for one more? The last question says, what is the acceleration of a 6 kilogram mass pushed by a 12 Newton force? So in this case, acceleration is what I'm solving for. Kilograms is always my mass, and newtons is always force. Now that I know what I have, I can start plugging it into my triangle. I have force on the top. Acceleration is what I'm solving for, and I have 6 kilograms of mass. Just like in the previous problem, when I have two numbers on top of each other in my triangle, I always divide the two. So when I do that, to solve for acceleration, I take my 12 newtons, divide that by the 6 kilograms, and I get acceleration is equal to 2 meters per second squared. Again, you don't need to remember how those units come to be. Just remember that acceleration is always in meters per second squared. And that's it. You now know how to solve for force, mass, and acceleration using our triangle. That's all that I have for you guys. Have a great day. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.